see, the beauty about real estate is you learn to use debt to get rich. If you're going to be rich, you have to learn to use debt. It's called other people's money. The 6 words that are basics of financial education, financial intelligence: income, expense, asset, liability. And the 2 other words are cash flow. So when you look at the average person, they have a job, money comes in here, they pay for their house, and the money goes to a bank through a mortgage. So it's not an asset because the cash is flowing out, so it's a liability. So the definition of liability, does it take money from your pocket? And for an asset, does it put money in your pocket? So when I have a rental property here, it puts money in my pocket. So if I live in the house, it's a liability, because even if I have no debt on it, I still have taxes, depreciation, repairs, and upkeep, insurance, and all this. When I rent a property, I've done a good job buying it and structuring it. Every month it sends me money. So I started off when I was 25. I had a little 1-bedroom condo, and it put 25 bucks in my pocket. It was a start. So this was good debt. You see, the debt also went out and paid, but it also put $25 in my pocket. So net, I was making money from my little house. So today, my wife and I own 6,500 of them. And every month, 6,500 houses put money in my pocket. My people who live in them love me and all this because they have a place to live. But all of this comes from debt. So we have the 100% finance here. It's all debt. So this is good debt. And what makes it good debt are the 2 most important words: cash flow.
NOI means net operating income. So if you really think about it, it's just income minus expenses. That's all it is. And so it's important to know where you are financially. So a banker is going to look at your income after expenses. So that's a great way to say it.
Yeah, it's really quite simple. So let's say, I'll keep the numbers simple. You have $1,000 income, and you have $500 in expenses. This is a property.
Yep. So you have a $500 NOI, or net operating income.
So why is that important?
Well, the banker looks at that number because that's the number that they see to be able to pay back any debt you might want.
Right. This is where this comes in, right?
Correct. So they're going to look here and they're going to say, okay, this person has $500 in NOI, therefore we can give them a loan, say up to, say, $350, $250, or something like that. So they're not going to give you a loan for the whole amount because they don't want you to be that tight. So what they're going to do is they're going to look at the NOI and say, how much can we loan you?
So when Kenny calls me and says, I have this property, it's in horrible condition, there's no income, there's expenses all over the place, you get excited, right?
A lot of people get hung up here because they don't have a financial statement, any way to go to a banker, let's say. But sometimes a banker will look at the property itself. So they'll say, this has a bad NOI on it, why would we give you money? You know what I mean? And then so that's when the financial education comes in and you say, well, this is what I plan to do with it.
Correct. What Kenny is saying, I'm keeping the numbers simple. He's had income of 0.
Yeah.
And this is 1,000.
Yeah. So you'd have a negative NOI.
And the banker goes, tell me why.
I can't lend on that, right?
Right.
Because it's a higher risk of being able to be paid back. The NOI, or the net operating income, determines the value. So what you back into it, another vehicle called the capitalization rate, or a cap rate. So it's actually, well, we're getting a little technical, but typically the cap rate or capitalization rate divided into the NOI determines the price. So that's generally how that works. But in the case that we were talking about, the value of the building with no tenant in it
is way low.
Is way low, and there's really no income. So it's basically whatever the structure is. So I've seen lots of situations where a vacant building, somebody might have spent $5–10 million on a building that's completely vacant. Vacant warehouses, vacant whatevers, right? Sometimes you see them get converted into clubs or whatever. Well, there's value there. Somebody spent a lot of money on it. Well, one time, somebody owns it too. It could be a bank, it could be whatever. So taking that and creating value, sticking a restaurant in it, a gym in it, a club in it, it doesn't really matter who's in it. Well, it does, because you want them to pay you, but now you're creating the income, and then that's how you create value. So in that example, let's say you buy a building for $1 million, on a block. With a tenant in it, it could be worth $3, $4, $5 million.
So if it's a tenant in it, the value is up.
Yeah, right. Because now what you do is you put all that together, and then you can actually sell it.
Got it. And so even if the NOI is negative, if you create a plan that creates value for the property and shows the increase that you're going to give the property's value, the bank will give you the loan.
Oftentimes, yeah, and
not always.
Not always, but there are ways to do it. So in that particular case, you might get a loan from somebody like Robert and say, hey, I need $1 million, and this is my plan. And then once you get a tenant in it, then you go back to the bank and you say, hey, give me a loan, and then they give you a loan and you pay Robert back.
So the thing that Kenny is always looking for is, after we stabilize the building, he'll tell me, he says, look, in 5 years, I'm going to get this from 1,000 to 10,000.
Yeah.
I'll go, okay, so that I know I'm in it for 5 years with them as an investor. And on top of that, we're going to reduce the expenses back to 500. The NOI goes up, the value goes up, the debt goes up to, let's say, 10,000.
So I have a friend, for example, he actually bought a building in a town up in Idaho where I have a vacation house for about $1 million. And it was an old Elks building, a beautiful building downtown, but it had been vacant for a long time. He bought it, and he put like 30 offices in there, small offices, 1,500 to 2,000 feet each, and grew the revenue, right? So everybody pays.
So the income went up.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he broke it up and then leased it up, and so he has his expenses, but now he's got 30 people paying rent, as opposed to just one big vacant building. He turned it into a pretty cool workspace, for everybody.
But and then Kenny's, in his third book, The Advanced Guide to Real Estate, his job is to get this up, keep this stable. Then he goes back to the banker and says, look, we've got all these tenants, money's going up, and so we now want $12,000.
Yeah.
Because he's improved income, kept expenses low, building's more valuable.
Yeah, the key there is the bank's always looking at your NOI to pay back their loan. So the more you can grow that, the more loan you can get.
Mm-hmm. And so essentially the renters are paying your debt.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially. So if that building I was referring to goes to 50% vacant, now he's in trouble. Mm-hmm. But if you can keep it full, so now you're getting into management. But regardless of that, that's how you do it. There's opportunities like this everywhere.
And I know that another thing that you always mention in all your books and the ABCs of real estate investing is that property management is very important. Poor property management equals poor profits, right? And so I wanted you to kind of explain the importance of the property management.
Well, essentially all property management is taking care of the property in every way. So taking care of the people that might be inside of this building, for the various things that come up from day to day, collecting the rent and paying all the expenses. That's really all it is. And so the property manager's job is to make sure the place is clean and that things are getting rented and all those things. And so the owner of the building would hire a company like that, or they can do it themselves, and basically keep the place full. So in our world, we have a property management company that we have about 300 employees. All we do is focus on this. these two things. How do we keep our expenses low and keep our income high? Because we're always trying to grow our NOI. So our NOI, we have a budget for, let's say, 2017 or 2018 or 2019. The goal is to grow that NOI each year.
And Kenny's done such things as the way he grew the income, he put washing machines, right? In the units. There are no washing machines. And so when he put washing machines in the building, this went up, right?
Yeah, so in my apartment houses, we would buy apartment houses that had washer and dryer hookups, but no machines. And so the people would walk down to the laundromat or whatever, and it was a bit of an inconvenience for the people and all that. So I said, well, let's just buy, for $650, we can buy a washer and dryer set and stick them in all there. And we did that. And so I probably bought 3,000 or 4,000 sets of washers and dryers for a lot of our properties. And so now all of a sudden we can charge $75 or $100 more in rent.
And this goes up.
Yeah.
This doesn't go up as much.
It's a win-win because they have to go spend some money anyway to go do their laundry. Now they can do it here. And for me, if I can pay back those washers and dryers in 1 year, because it's only $650 for a set, and if I can get $75 more, then all of a sudden I've got $900 to almost $1,000 more in rent. So I'm actually, it's what I call a 1 year payback on.
So what Kenny does, he borrows the money here.
Yeah.
To put washing machines in here. Again, the tenant pays it all off, and the washing machines stay there.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's a brilliant idea because I know that both of you have created incentives for the renters. So for example, if they stayed for a year, you would do certain renovations, like including the washing machine. And so every year there was another incentive, which not only increased the property's value, but also the renters paying for it, essentially.
And the banker is happy.
Yeah.
What would you guys respond to the critics who say that real estate is a slow lane approach to getting rich?
That's fine with me. I can't think of another. I mean, I think it's really super simple. Wow, real estate is very slow and very dumb.
Every month we got cash flow.
Yeah, I like that. I like, we're not banking on something going up. This is called creating value. We're not parking our money in something and hoping it goes up. This is very strategic.
Perfect.
So everybody's got their point of view. Most people want to get rich quick. That's why they never get rich.
Yeah, this is not that.
Yeah, this is financial education. This is smart. This is having your banker be your partner.
Yeah, and these are long-term assets, by the way. This is a business. This is like managing a business. We would not sell these. So unlike the stock market or something, we're not trying to time things. We're trying to generate cash flow here and then move to the next one.
Okay, perfect.
So can I give you one last thing, because those guys always upset me. So what Kenny does, he increases this, fixes this, and then when this goes up, he gives my money back. So I might give Kenny $1 million for 5 years, let's say. He increases this, decreases this. The bank says, oh, your NOI is up. So he puts all this money in there. I get my $1 million back. I still own the property. I still have the cash flow going in. So all you guys who want to get rich quick, it's called an infinite return, right?
Yeah, and it's tax-free.
It's tax-free.
The reason it's tax-free is because when we use debt to pay back debt, it's debt, so it's owed. So when Robert gets his money back, it's actually tax-free.
Yeah, let me say I lend Kenny, this is pretty common numbers. I lend him $1 million. He fixes all this. The bank gives him $3 million. I get my $1 million back.
Right.
And that is tax-free. I get it back.
Right.
And I still own the building with Kenny.
So yeah, so to your question, you got to wonder why, if you can invest $1 million and get it back tax-free and still have lots of cash flow.
And still have the cash flowing this way.
Why somebody would think that, it's a pretty simple model.